It is Tuesday, May 20th, and President Trump meeting with Republicans on the Hill this morning, taking the lead on corralling the caucus on getting his big, beautiful bill over the finish line, wrapping up his meeting and then throwing down with the press, only like Donald Trump can, and saying the quiet part out loud about his predecessor. We're going to show you that. Also, former First Lady Jill Biden may be under criminal investigation for elderly abuse. You heard that right. This coming from a senior Department of Justice official, Leo Terrell. Elderly abuse. That's what he said on X. We're going to show you. And Megyn Kelly exposing the largest grifter in corporate media. The man who was at the center of the Biden health cover-up over at CNN, Jake Tapper, who thought it was a good idea this morning to go on Megyn's show and pitch his book, learning the hard way what tough questions really look like. This was great, but before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel, and consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates. So we're beginning to get a picture of why establishment Washington and the Democrats fought so damn hard to prevent Trump from retaking office. What we're seeing and living through is Trump finally securing complete control of the U.S. government the way it's supposed to be. The President of the United States, upon winning election, is supposed to be in control, the captain of the ship, something he was blocked from doing during his first term. So many deeply rooted power centers usurping his role as commander-in-chief 8 years ago, but not this time. He was ready this time. All of his cabinet nominees approved by the Senate. So many good Americans helping make this possible, warding off terrible shills like Mike Pompeo and Nikki Haley from joining his cabinet. The executive branch today running more like a citizen-controlled, civilian-controlled government than we've seen in a century. The people's candidates, Trump, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel at FBI, Pete Hegseth as SecDef. Whether you like these people or not, they're all civilians chosen by the people to run the beast that is the federal government, not entrenched bureaucrats like we saw during the Biden administration or the Obama administration, people climbing the ladder, the bureaucratic ladder. Now, Congress is still a complete mess, the corruption as deep as ever over on the Hill, but the executive branch, at the moment, the top layer of the executive branch, apparently clean. And because of that, we're seeing finally how things should be run. If there's a real commander-in-chief, not a front man, but an actual president. And this morning, President Trump strolling on into the Capitol, meeting with House Republicans on his big, beautiful bill, on getting this done. After wrapping up the meeting, stepping out in front of the cameras, unleashing hell on the press, first dropping major details on what will be in this big, beautiful bill, then addressing the giant fat elephant in the room, his predecessor, Joe Biden, saying the quiet part out loud. Watch.
There was no shouting. I think it was a meeting of love. There were a couple of things that we talked about specifically where some people felt a little bit one way or the other, not a big deal. And I covered them. It wasn't so much a speech. I covered certain points.
The media trying to float obstruction in the Senate, that Republican senators will try derailing this bill by proposing changes, something Trump says he's looking forward to, that they have some ideas over there in the Senate, which he likes even better than what's currently in the bill. Watch.
You told him you were losing patience. Are you losing patience? No, I didn't tell him. Who told you I said I'm losing patience? That's what we heard inside the room. It's a lie. Wait. Who's told you that?
What we heard from people inside the room.
Oh, really? It's totally true. I never used the term. I didn't say losing. I didn't even talk about it. In fact, it's the opposite. I think we're going to get it done. I'm not losing patience. We're ahead of schedule. Anybody that told you that is a liar. Wait a minute. I never mentioned the word losing patience because I'm not losing patience. We're ahead of schedule.
That's why I asked you. I want to get it clear.
Why don't you go back to your source and tell them they're liars if the source even exists?
The best part of this press gaggle was when Trump flipped the narrative, turning it back to his predecessor, Joe Biden, saying we were losing $5 billion a day. And the real question was who ran the auto pen, because the laws and orders that were signed with auto pen were all signed illegally. Roll the tape.
And remember this, we were losing $5 billion a day under the past administration. I have to be a little bit careful the way I talk, because there's a lot of anger about that administration. And by the way, the real question, who ran the auto pen? Okay, who ran the auto pen? Because the things that were signed illegally, in my opinion. I think we've just proved that. But our country is respected again. All over the world we're respected. We were laughed at 7 months ago. Then you had November 5th, and our country is respected again. Thank you.
And the whole auto pen controversy 2 months ago that the media said was exaggerated and untrue, another conspiracy, well, again, turning out to be true just 100 days after Joe would have taken office for his second term. He announces he has metastatic bone cancer, terminal cancer. Horrific news. Announcing it coincidentally, though, on the same day that Jake Tapper's book comes out on Friday, or last Friday, exposing Biden's declining health. I mean, how long did the Bidens know about this? How long did his team, his advisors, know about this? They really learned the same day the book came out? Well, we're about to learn those answers, and guess who may give them? Dr. Jill, former First Lady, who is now apparently a target by the DOJ for elder abuse. You heard that right. This story just gets worse and worse. Senior Department of Justice official Leo Terrell suggesting former First Lady Jill Biden may be charged with elder abuse, saying Dr. Jill being accused of abusing President Biden and covering up his health, making this comment on X saying elder abuse, criminal charges, double question mark. Elder abuse is a form of domestic violence, and Dr. Biden has a lot of explaining to do about her part in defrauding the American people and taxpayers. Amen. And Dr. Jill isn't the only one. The establishment press corps, corporate media, in my opinion, is most at fault. People like CNN's Jake Tapper, who's now trying to save face by writing a book about Biden and his declining health. 100 days too late, going around doing a media tour over the last week trying to promote his book, pretending he's a brave journalist for uncovering this, when he was one of the principal people at CNN who was covering it up in the first place. This morning, though, making a giant mistake, going on the Megyn Kelly show to again pitch his book, thinking he'd get a warm reception for some reason, but it was anything but that. Watch Megyn Kelly exposing Jake Tapper for the grifter and fraud that he is. This was great. Roll the tape.
I did ask Joe Biden to be transparent about his health records in an interview in 2020. I did ask him about the fact that voters
but then he wasn't.
Thought that he was not transparent at all. No.
He promised you that
no.
he would be transparent about his health records, and then he wasn't. And when you sat with him again,
at all.
including 1 month after the Jackie Walorski thing, you didn't ask him about it. You didn't follow up on the fact that he was falling up the stairs, that he was losing his train of thought regularly, that he was slurring, that he was incomprehensible, that he was getting lost on the White House lawn. You sat right across from him and you asked none of that, notwithstanding the fact that he had promised you he would be fully transparent about his health issues.
That's true, but I did ask him about his age and the fact that the American people had concluded that even though he said whenever anybody brought up the subject of his age, watch me. And I said,
yes,
they're watching you and they are concerned that you were too old for this job.
But you know as well as I do that there's a way of, you can say, hey, there's this poll on your age, or you could say, you just forgot that Jackie Walorski was dead. You asked where she was moments after watching a videotape tribute to her. You lowered the flags at the White House after she died. This happened 13 days before you sat with him. There is a way of pressing a man like that on the actual infirmities to bring it home to him and to the audience, and you didn't do it.
That's correct. I didn't. And like I said, I feel humility about my coverage. I mean, it's not like I was asking him his favorite movie or his favorite color. We were talking about Putin. We were talking about other issues of national importance. But yeah, I mean, of course, I've said I look back at my coverage with humility, and I wish I did cover the issues of age and acuity, but I wish I had covered them much more. And I wish, I mean, of course, it's May 2025. Do I wish that in that 10, 15-minute interview I had with Biden in October 2022 that this had been the only subject because I had then
Well, it
what I
wasn't
know
just that,
now.
though, Jake. It wasn't just that. I mean, you sat with him a couple of times in the course of his presidency, and these issues
No, I
were not
didn't.
pressed. Well, there was
No,
at least
I-
that time,
I-
and then there was the time at the beginning. And but separate and apart from that,
but Megyn,
you
Megyn, hold on,
covered the
hold on.
Biden's
I sat
presidency.
with-
No. Let me just finish my point.
I'm
You
just saying
covered the
I had
Biden
one interview with
presidency.
him during his. I had one
Okay,
interview
right.
with him
And it was
during the
13 days
presidency.
after the Jackie Walorski thing. But you covered the Biden presidency aggressively throughout the 4 years, and you didn't cover mental acuity hardly at all. I mean, time and time again, when issues came up, you seemed to be running cover for the president.
I don't-
You didn't
I
seem
don't think that's
interested.
true.
Well, I mean, we'll start with the Laura Trump issue that you referred. Here it is. This happened in 2020.
Joe Biden, as we all know, has worked to overcome a stutter. How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
First and foremost, I had no idea that Joe Biden ever suffered from a stutter. I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable
You are
to
no
watch somebody
ab-
on
you have-
stage
I can't-
search for
this is so
questions.
amazing.
You're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I
a
think that you
stuttering.
were mocking his
I had
stutter.
no idea, Joe
Yeah,
Biden.
I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no
Jake.
standing to diagnose
Wow.
somebody's cognitive decline.
And it's very concerning to a lot of people that this could be the leader of the free world.
Okay.
That is all I'm saying. I genuinely
Thank you,
feel
Laura
sorry
Trump.
for Joe Biden. At
I
times.
appreciate it. I'm sure it was from a place of concern. We all believe that. Laura Trump, thank you so much.
Do you want to apologize to Laura Trump now?
I've already apologized to her. I called her months ago.
And what did she say?
I mean, I don't want to disclose the contents of a private conversation, but I thought the conversation went well. And she has said this publicly, so I feel fine sharing it. She said that she would never mock anybody's stutter. But I mean, after we did the research for this book, and I realized how bad his acuity issues were, I called Laura Trump and I said, you were right.
She was totally right. That's the thing, because when I watched that clip, and I'm giving voice to what a lot of people watching the show are feeling, Jake, I feel angry because she was right. And not only did you not allow her to make her comments, but you seemed to try to humiliate her. You had a hostility toward the position, but she was totally right. And then you lectured her on how she was in no position to diagnose cognitive decline, which you guys do at length, including on page 4 of your book. You describe at length his cognitive decline, which is all she tried to do with you. But you had such a visceral reaction to her. And my feeling is that's because you didn't want to hear it.
No, I'm happy to talk about this. I didn't come here thinking that you weren't going to ask me about this. So I'm happy to talk to you about it.
No, I know.
The first time I saw the coverage of Laura Trump's comments, which were interpreted as her mocking Joe Biden's stutter, was in January 2020. I read it in conservative media. I read it in the Daily Mail. And that's where I saw that her comments were being interpreted that way. After those comments were publicized, it got a lot of coverage. And Sully Sullenberger wrote an op-ed in the New York Times criticizing her about this. So that's the context for that, that I was following up on a story that had been out there months before. This is also in the context of October 2020, a very intense time. People on the Biden side are saying crazy things about Trump. People on the Trump side are saying crazy things about Biden, including Don Jr. suggesting that Joe Biden is a pedophile. So that is the larger context. But as I said, her comments have aged well. My comments have aged poorly. I own that. But I think what is significant is, in addition to me owning that, the reporting that Alex and I have done, which is beyond just, and when I say just, I don't mean to diminish it, but the comments of Joe Biden making gaffes, saying things stupid, tripping, are all important and all deserved to be aired and all deserve scrutiny. But as you know, Megyn, because even though you look 30 years younger than me, we're roughly the same age, Joe Biden has been saying stupid things for decades. Okay,
I get
and
what you're
he has
saying,
been-
but this minimizes it too, because it was
No,
more
I'm
than
not
saying
minimizing it at all.
stupid things. But I'm telling you, like over here in my ecosphere, we were covering all of these. It wasn't just falling down; it was getting lost. It was some of the stuff you report in your book. We knew, and we were reporting on, like the multi-jump cuts in the videos of him, where it was obvious he couldn't get through a 1-minute take. So they had to use those. It was clear to us that he was using teleprompter, and there was some reporting on that at the time, all of which the White House was denying. Now, with the current White House, I have some connections. With the Joe Biden White House, I had none. But you did. You did. And so while... You've been in Washington 30 years, Jake. You guys, you and CNN have White House connections, but there was no effort, none, to get to the bottom of this. And now for you guys to write this book like there was a cover-up, it's like there was a cover-up and there was an attempted cover-up. It could only ever work if you allowed it.
All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.